All right, let's check Twitter here. Nobody else in the portal yet.
Yeah.
So what? I don't know. We're up to at least 7 or 8 from Texas A&M baseball. Probably a good time to check back in on TexAgs.com, the forums.
They're losing everybody.
Here's how the forums line up now. Top topic is let's face it. ... Is this the acceptance stage?
They are quickly working through the stages of grief.
Actually, no. Station. There's no. Wow, this is actually from Aggie in Nebraska.
Oh, hello. ...
For months, there has been a wolf in the hen house.
These cliches are amazing.
I don't think Schloss made intentionally bad faith or program decisions to tank A&M season, but damage can be much more subtle than sending a base runner at the wrong time or pulling a pitcher too late. However, if the rumors are true, if he's known for months that he's leaving and taking the entire coaching staff with him, and goes on to further illustrate the point that basically Jim Schlossnagle was saboing this entire baseball season just to stick the fork in Texas A&M even harder so he could take the job at Texas and put himself and the Longhorn program in a better position when he gets there. Do you buy it?
It's chess, not checkers.
That is quite the conspiracy. I'm here for conspiracies. It's quite the conspiracies. We're joined now on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline by our good friend Mitch Sherman of The Athletic. Mitch, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Connor?
Good. We've just been checking the TexAgs message board for about the last 3 hours. There's some good stuff in there.
Pretty calm over there, I imagine.
Yeah. So there. I don't know if you checked the news over the last couple hours. He did his introductory press conference, and the entire former Texas A&M team is basically in the portal.
Yeah, it kind of hurts when Jace Laviolette heads into the portal immediately after the coach leaves. I mean, I'm as the old saying would go, I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. And I don't think that these guys just found out that they may need to be on the move after the season yesterday. You don't go in the portal. It could have at least strung it out till Friday to make it look a little more above board, but something was going on before the Aggies were done playing in Omaha, probably long before. And it's a bad look. It's a bad look for Schlossnagle. It's a bad look for really everybody involved there. And it puts our old friend Trev Alberts in a difficult spot.
It's a great look for rivalries, though. Rivalries are back with this. This might be the rivalry to end all rivalries. And now Trev Alberts, like you said, has the he gets to make the next move here in this fun little game of checkers that we're playing across the college baseball world.
Everything that's led up to this over the last 36 hours has put Trev Alberts in a more difficult spot, because it's not just that Texas A&M lost its coach after playing for the national championship. It's not just that he went to Texas, the hated rival, but Texas is also coming into the SEC officially next week. And there's now this presumption that the Longhorns were tinkering with Texas A&M's success as the Aggies had their first, legitimate chance to win a first national championship in a major men's sport since 1939. And on top of that, all of these players are leaving Texas A&M, some of them presumably to land at Texas. So, Trev's got to go out and hire a coach. And there's probably in this situation only about 3 or 4 coaches in the country who would make Texas A&M fans happy. He of course needs to hire the best coach for Texas A&M baseball, but
he's got to make a splash.
Right. You have to you can't just go hire a good young coach at this point, or Aggie fans are going to be irate at him. They feel so undone, so exposed, so gotten over by Texas that I think it's more important for Aggie Nation, Aggie Land, to make a splash with this hire than it is to actually hire the right baseball coach. And I don't know if there's somebody who fits both of those categories. And if there is, I don't know that Trev Alberts can get him. So he's in potentially a no-win situation.
So we were talking about it earlier, and not to go too deep on this, but Trev is definitely not the type of person who makes hires to make splashes. Like that has not been his MO before. So like you said, he's in a pretty tough situation at the moment, doing something he's only hired one baseball coach in his time of being athletic director. It was a very low profile hire. And now he's got to go out and do something that accomplishes a couple things. Not only you got to win and you got to win right away, but you also have to hire one of the best names in the sport. Like he's got to get he's got to get his elbows into this one a little bit. It's a very odd spot.
I would think that he's not going to bow to the pressure. Like he's going to do his thing.
Yeah.
Just say you're going to have to live with it. And if it doesn't work, he's going to be the one who has to pay the price. Like it's going to be his job that's on the line. Because this hire, like, let's be clear, like this is as big. There's only one hire that he could have to make that would be bigger than this, and that's the Texas A&M football coach. The basketball job is not as big as the baseball job at Texas A&M. This is the second biggest sport at that school, and really in Texas. And so, but I would guess that if he can't get like Nick Bengione from Kentucky or Eric Bakich from Clemson, then he's just going to say, look, I've got a list and I'm going to go try to hire the best coach who I think is right for A&M, and Aggie fans are going to be disappointed. and if it doesn't work, then they're going to want his head on a platter.
Yeah.
The AD, that is.
Tons of fun. Definitely much more fun to follow as an innocent bystander than being in the middle of it. That's for sure. Mitch Sherman of The Athletic joins us here on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. Okay, so I think they asked you yesterday about this on the afternoon show, the question in your mailbag about the 7-0 start. We just saw a prediction from another college football writer who basically said Nebraska is going to start 6-1 and they're going to accomplish the 8 wins. I'll ask it to you in a similar way. Would you be disappointed? Would you feel like there is probably more left out there if Nebraska starts 5-2? Would you feel good at 6-1? Obviously you'd feel very, very good at 7-0. This is going to tell a big portion of the story in Nebraska's season this year, how those first 7 games turn out. But I think we're all in the point right now where we're saying, well, it's got to be at the very least 5-2.
Yeah, I think 5-2 would feel a little bit disappointing, to be honest. And it depends. Not all 5-2 is 5-2s are created equal, but 6-1 is like, I think the threshold is the expectation, and that's putting a lot on Matt Rule. Talk about putting pressure on people. I mean, he's got it on him too. I don't know. I mean, look, if you start 5-2 and then beat UCLA and beat USC, or beat Wisconsin, win at Iowa, then it's palatable for sure. I mean, whatever you got to do, if you can get to 8 wins, it doesn't matter if you start 5, 6, 7 wins in your first 7 games. Like you get to 8, then that's probably a success. But it's going to be a much more difficult climb, of course, if you're 5-2 versus 6-1 or 7-0. And I think 7-0 is a little pie in the sky. Like that's just not what this program has been in recent years. You might be favored individually in each one of those games, but and we don't know. We don't know like if Illinois is going to come into Lincoln undefeated, or if Nebraska is going to go to Purdue and it's going to be a resurgence this year for Purdue. Who knows? We don't know what Indiana is going to be playing like, or Rutgers, but so they may not be favored in all 7, but they very well could be. And I still think it's difficult for this team to pull that off. You freshman at quarterback and just various factors, lack of experience in being successful. Like there's something about like playing with success and understanding how to handle that I think is still going to be somewhat new to this team if they do start hot.
Which is the more important box to check this year? This is kind of another way of asking a very similar question. The more important box to check: Nebraska takes care of business in games that they're quote unquote supposed to win, or Nebraska wins a game or 2 that they're not supposed to win.
I think taking care of business. I really do. I think that's the first step. I think that you have to get that in order before you can expect to win games that you're not supposed to win. It would be kind of a weird dynamic if Nebraska were to lose to Rutgers and then beat USC. I mean, you'd feel good to win in LA for sure, but it almost makes it that would I think add to the frustration that was lingering from losing a game you should win, or losing at Indiana or something like that. So for me, you take it one step at a time. It's like with any sport. Like, I mean, we're talking about college baseball in this conversation, and I've often seen how teams, win a regional, then you win a super regional, then you get to Omaha and you get it handed to you, and then the next time you come, you're just better prepared. And it's that way in college football. It's hard to go from like A to D. So first things first, win the games you're supposed to win. That was the foundation of Nebraska football when it was a successful program. And then you can start to peck away at like a big upset, a signature win. I mean, and you can always do them both in the same year too.
Sure. Yeah. The linear growth part has always been like, I think that's always how Nebraska fans view it. Just like if we're looking at Nebraska football in like a 3-year time period or something like that. Yeah. It's, this is the year we get to a bowl game. This is the year we get to 8. This is the year we are competing for a college football playoff. So it doesn't always work that way. And sometimes you're at the mercy of what the schedule kind of affords them to do. So I think, Mitch, I want to get your thought on this. Like, Nebraska's at this interesting crossroads this year where they have a freshman quarterback and they might not be like fully ready to go for whatever they're going for, or get that big win or whatever it might be. However, the schedule kind of lines up for them this year. Like I'm always curious about how it feels kind of at the end of the year. And like the schedule, as it looks right now, looks gettable. And that's always something that we're going to have to factor into if the year was a success or not.
Yeah, I think the schedule, it lines up for the expectation at the beginning to look like this is the year for Nebraska to like take a big shot, to swing big. And that would probably include winning games you're supposed to win and gunning for a big upset, try to knock somebody off. And if it's not Ohio State or USC, then maybe it's Wisconsin or Iowa. And that would still feel real good for Nebraska fans too, and for the Nebraska program. I will say also that on like the linear growth thing, it is, I think the old way, or the traditional way of building your program. But the transfer portal has changed that somewhat. And I do think that there are a lot of programs out there that say, no, we need to take 2 steps when we used to think about taking 1. And I've yet to determine if that's the right way for Nebraska. We'll see how they play. And, I think Matt Rule's more the way that he builds and his vision for success is more in line with linear growth. But, there's a question to be asked about whether that way of doing it still works in college football today.
Hey, we didn't talk to you last week on the show because of the College World Series. What do you think about what do you take away from the addition of the quarterback from Northwestern and Iowa? That's Jalen Gramstad. He goes into the room. We talked about it a little bit on our podcast and how kind of it fell just fell into Nebraska's lap, and it was as good of a opportunity as they could have asked for. But as far as what he brings to the table and what he could add in that room this year, what do you think that might be? What are your expectations for him?
Right now, my expectations would be for him to kind of find his niche. And then also for Nebraska, independent of Gramstad, this is not something he has to concern himself with in this moment, but to make sure that everybody around him is on the right page and everybody's on the same page and everybody's in agreement about what their roles are going to be. And that's tough when the coaching staff has yet to define roles. They've certainly yet to define the roles externally for the public. And it's difficult to know because you don't probably get a full answer. It's one thing that Matt Rule isn't as transparent about is just how the conversations are evolving within the quarterback room. They have to kind of walk a fine line with a couple of players, and if you're going to start to assess the impact that Gramstad can have on the whole room, then you're having conversations that would seem ahead of the curve, like presumptive with somebody like Heinrich Carberg. It's difficult to go to Heinrich in this moment if you're true what you're saying about this still being a 3 quarterback race. It's difficult to go to him and say, okay, if you're not the starter, are you willing to try to help this offense in other ways? And can we start to work you in early in preseason camp in where, you're playing running back or H-back or tight ends, or, you're coming in motion, or we use you as a decoy. And because then, you're obviously signaling to him that they may be heading in a direction that isn't on, isn't part of his plan. So it's tough. It's, but we can all think about it and talk about it, of course. And, my expectation is that Dylan Raiola is the starter. And if that's the case, then I think the impact of Gramstad is such that it frees up Harburg, and it frees him up to do things athletically that could help advance him toward the NFL, and it frees up Danny Kaelin to really develop at his own pace and take a redshirt season.
I agree. Mitch Sherman of The Athletic. All right, Mitch, we'll let you go. Appreciate the time as always, and we'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Mitch Sherman. You can also catch the takes on the podcast, the Locked On Nebraska podcast with me.
You?
Yep.
And Mitch talking Nebraska football every day?
Not every day. Times a week at the moment during football season.
It'll ramp back
every
up.
Day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so put a pin in this topic for tomorrow, because this is where eventually that conversation got to before the question about Gramstad. Would you rather? We're in would you rather season.
Hello.
So we talk about this idea of linear growth all the time, right? You go from 6, what's next after 6? You get to 8, you get to playoff contention. And in everyone's perfect world, that's how it goes. If I'm giving you the option this year of linear growth or big jump, not big lake, but big jump, which one are you taking? Knowing what effect that might have on the years following, right? So big jump is what? You go from 5 to 8. You go from 5 to 9. And then maybe you're not 9 wins the next year. Maybe you're not 11 wins.
It's just a
the
spike.
Next year. It's just a spike. Not that you have to come back down to earth, but just it is a spike, and then maybe you're there, because the win totals are what the win totals are. Like, they're not 100% indicative of the health of your program, but that's what you're graded on at the end of the day. I think linear growth would kind of be disappointing this year.
I'm always going to be.
We are all setting up for the big jump.
Yeah, the allure of big jump is always going to be there,
just like it is for Big Lake.
What a temptress
as well
big jump is.
All right, Josh will identify the top draft picks in the NBA draft tonight, the way only he can.
Let me wow you with my knowledge.
Next on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley.
But here's the other thing that I've also come to a conclusion after eating in a restaurant the other day. You know, when you walk in and they go, would you like a booth or a table? I am here to tell you, I don't mean to be mean about this, there is no one that goes to a restaurant where the booth is available that wants a table. There just isn't. And if they want the table over the booth, I'm very curious about who they are, how they're made up.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone.